Since September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I thought I would share my cancer story with you guys. I get a lot of questions about this, but since I was so little, it was hard for me to know everything that was going on. So today I have my mom here to kind of explain it.
So when I was pregnant with Nina, I joined an online group for mothers. It was called Baby Center December 2003 Babies. It was for moms that could talk to each other about their pregnancies, and then after the babies were born, we all stayed in touch and we talked about our kids. One of the little babies that was born, named Allie, she was diagnosed with AML, acute myeloid leukemia, which was really a bad cancer, and she ended up only living to be 9 months old. This really touched me.
Got it.
So after baby Allie, I just became such an advocate for childhood cancer. I prayed for other children that had cancer, and we donated money, and it really, really touched me. And I never thought that one day it would happen to us. So when Nina was 4 years old, up until that point, she'd been pretty healthy. And then suddenly she started getting urinary tract infections. After the third one, the doctor decided it was time to send her for some tests. And it was supposed to just take 20 minutes that day. And after an hour, we didn't know what was going on. And so a radiologist came in the room and told us that we would have to go for some additional tests, but we didn't know why. And so she ended up having the tests, and we went home thinking we were going to find out something on Monday, and on Saturday morning the phone rang, and it was the pediatrician saying, "You need to come to my office right away." And we knew it had to be something really, really bad. So on the car ride over to the doctor, I kept going like through my mind thinking, well, what could it be? Like, why do we need to go in right now? It's got to be bad. So I thought, well, maybe it's her kidneys. Maybe she needs a transplant. Maybe she needs to have just one kidney removed. But then when cancer crossed my mind, I just started praying, please, please don't let it be neuroblastoma. Please not neuroblastoma. Because I knew that neuroblastoma was like one of the most aggressive childhood cancers and that not very many kids survive. And as a matter of fact, that month in my parents' magazine that I was subscribed to, there was an article about a little 4-year-old boy named Liam who had stage 4 neuroblastoma. All childhood cancer is ugly. But neuroblastoma is just a really big monster that takes a lot of lives. And it was something that I already knew because I'd been such an advocate for other kids that had cancer. Between that and just the fact that I'd just seen this magazine, I was really, at that moment, just praying not neuroblastoma. But then we got to the doctor's office. We had Lindsay, her sister, and Nina were with us, and they went into a room with a nurse, and then I went into a room with her dad and the doctor, and we could tell right away that the doctor was sad. He'd been Nina's doctor since she was a brand new baby, and he'd known her all her life, and he said she had a 5-centimeter tumor that was about the size of a golf ball growing on her right adrenal gland. And he started using words like cancer. And then finally he took out his prescription pad and he wrote down the words 5 centimeters neuroblastoma. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was happening. It was like it was happening to somebody else. So he told us that we needed to go right to Children's Hospital on Monday morning he said we would go to the hematology oncology department where they treat childhood cancer, and he said they'd be expecting us. So the rest of that weekend was so hard.
Well, even I knew I really wasn't feeling good at that time. I remember going over to my friend's house and you would just talk to her mom, and I just wanted to hang out with you instead of playing with my friend. I remember I just didn't feel good actually before we found out. But I still didn't really understand what was happening.
In November, about like a month and a half before she got diagnosed, she just started laying around and sucking her thumb again. So we kind of thought maybe something was wrong, but she was like getting urinary tract infections, and maybe that's why, you would get fevers and things like that. So, but other than that, you would have good days too, and it just was unbelievable that was growing inside you, and we had no idea. We decided, well, we better tell you guys what was going on. So at the dinner table, we told you and Lindsay that you had cancer, and you didn't understand at all. You were 4. Lindsay knew that cancer was bad, but she still, like today, if you talk to her, she says she really didn't understand how bad cancer is. She just knew that you were going to go to the hospital. The next day we went to church, and we walked in and we were surrounded by love. It was amazing. It was like everybody was already praying, and they were coming up to us and just like holding our hand and just saying how much they loved us, and that they were praying for you and our family, and it just meant so much. So on Monday, January 28th, 2008, we went to Nationwide Children's Hospital to the oncology hematology clinic, and when we got there, the nurse said that she didn't know which doctor we would be meeting with, but that Nina's name had come up that morning during morning rounds and that they were expecting her. We ended up meeting a different doctor that day. His name was Dr. O, and that was a scary visit. He gave us some very, very scary scenarios. They had like a 3D image of her tumor, and they put it on the screen. We got to see everything, but what he showed us was that her tumor, it was hindering her kidney, but it was also like possible that she would have to not only lose a kidney but also part of her liver by where it was located, and that she would definitely be losing her adrenal gland. And then he told us that the surgeon might decide that the tumor needed to be shrunk before the surgery, and that she might have to go on chemotherapy first. He told us we would meet the surgeon the next day to come back on Tuesday. We went home and we asked everybody to pray that she would not need chemo, that it would be okay once we met with the surgeon. So the next day we met Dr. King, and he was amazing. I'd had people tell me, you guys are in really, really good hands, that this is the best surgeon at that hospital, and he was voted one of the best doctors in America. So the next day we went back, and after asking everybody to pray, we met with Dr. King, the surgeon, and he made us feel a lot better. First of all, he decided that he was going to draw on a napkin, which just makes everything feel just a little bit better. He said that he was pretty sure, looking at the x-rays and stuff, that he could save her liver. He could possibly spare the kidney, and he said no chemo would be needed, that he could go ahead and take the tumor out without her having to go through any chemo first. So that was a huge, huge blessing and answer to prayer. He told us how the surgery would go. He said he was going to have the operating room for 3 hours, that while she was asleep, they were going to go ahead and do a bone marrow biopsy, because those are really painful. They go into your hip and they grind out the bone. Yeah. And then they take the marrow out and look and see if it has any cancer. And they had to do it on both hips, because they said that cancer can be patchy, like it can be on one side of the body and not the other, so they had to go ahead and do both. They also said that they might be putting in like a central port if they could tell that it was cancer like right away, like if, by looking at the tumor, if they knew, that they would probably go ahead and do that while you were asleep. Oh, and Dr. King also said that he would be repairing Nina's umbilical hernia in her belly button. So she was going to have like a lot of stuff done. But Dr. King thought that it was important that this come out immediately. So he went to schedule the operating room. And when he did, they said that he could have it in 2 weeks, and he like demanded. He said, no, I need it this Thursday. And he got her in. After we met him, we went back to the oncology clinic that day, and we met her doctor for the first time, Dr. Mark Rinaldi. And we loved him. He was the doctor that said, do not read the internet. You don't want to read anything about neuroblastoma. Just stay positive and hope for the best. So he told us that there were actually 3 kinds of tumors that it could be. They were all like in the neuroblastoma family, and one of them was called a ganglioneuroma, and that would be like the best case scenario. That's what we really wanted, because it was like the least aggressive and least threatening to her life. And then there was the intermediate tumor, which was called a ganglioneuroblastoma, which it was like it was cancerous. It was like 50% or less neuroblastoma in the tumor. And then if it was categorized as neuroblastoma, like full on, then that meant that over 50% of the tumor was full of neuroblastoma. So after we talked to Dr. Rinaldi, again, we went home and we just asked like everybody to pray that it would be like the ganglioneuroma, that it would be the one that would not threaten her life, and they would just be able to take it out. She would be okay. And so that's what we did. So it was still a couple of days until her surgery, and like every day when I would go to wake her up in the morning, I would wonder if like that was going to be the day when she was just going to be sick, like that the cancer was just going to be like so apparent. But luckily she was still okay on Wednesday, and so she went on to school. It was hibernation day at school, so you got to like wear your pajamas to school and bring a sleeping bag and a flashlight and teddy bear. I was so happy that she could just go and be a regular kid, because we didn't know what was coming. And then that night, our neighbors threw her a party with all like the kids in the neighborhood. They all came over and had pizza and cupcakes and watched movies, and then that was basically the last time that Nina got to eat for a really, really long time.
I didn't really know that either.
We did not know that. So we got the little napkin that showed like what he was going to do with like the incision and what Dr. King had planned. But they didn't tell us like what was coming and how bad it was going to be. We really had no idea. The next morning, Thursday morning, this was like January 31st. We went into the hospital really early, and I told her, I said, you're not going to get to eat breakfast today, but you can eat after your surgery, because that's what I thought. I didn't know. So anyway, we got to the hospital, we did all the pre-surgical things, and then they took Nina back, and we said goodbye in the hallway, and you got to take your little Hoppy Joe frog with you. Do you remember your Webkins frog?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went back in surgery with you, and we sat in the waiting room with our pastor, and we prayed, and she was just really brave that morning. Like, she really had no idea what was coming. Like, we really were mostly worried just about like the future. We weren't really thinking about like the next few days of like what she was going to be physically going through from the surgery. But anyway, that morning you were brave. You went in there and they gave you like this little surgery doll, and you got to like pretend to do surgery on it, and then they took you to a little room and you got to pick out a toy, and you were just really, really brave, I guess is the right word. For about 3 hours we were in the waiting room with our pastor, and we were just praying, and then finally Dr. King came out, and he came out like in front of everybody that was in the waiting room with us, and there were like other families waiting for their children. And like I literally said to myself, okay, he is coming out and talking to us in front of everybody. That means that she doesn't have cancer. Like, I thought he would not just come out in front of everybody. But he did. He came out and he said that it was neuroblastoma, that they went ahead and put it under the microscope and were able to see that it was neuroblastoma. so we didn't get the one that we wanted. But he said that he really believed that he got all the cancer out, and that he was hoping that it was going to be staged low. So he did not put a chemo port into your chest, because he was hoping that they were going to find out after all the other tests that it wasn't going to be okay. I guess that was good news.
So that means it was cancerous?
It was. So it literally felt to me like the end of the world. All I heard was your child has cancer. So after the surgery, they brought Nina into her room. We actually were there first. We were waiting for her. They told us which room she was going to be in, and they wheeled her in. And she was already it was amazing. Your eyes were already open, and you were already talking. And you looked up and said to me, "The doctor says I can suck my thumb now." It's so sweet. I think that's when it really hit us. Not only were we dealing with cancer, but now we're dealing with this really huge surgery. Huge surgery. Nina had 50 stitches going across her stomach, so she was cut from about this long, and her stomach was only she was tiny, so it was a really long incision. And then she had bandages on her hips from the bone marrow biopsy, and then her belly button had surgery because she had a hernia that was repaired. Then Nina said, "They forgot to give me breakfast." This little tear rolled down her cheek. And so when the nurse came in, I asked about it, and they said that she wasn't going to be able to eat for almost 5 days, almost a week. It was tough. So she couldn't eat for, the next few days, and she had tubes everywhere. She had a tube in her nose that went all the way down to her stomach, they called it your gut. They said that the tube went all the way to your gut. You had a catheter in, so you couldn't go to the bathroom. You had an IV in each arm, heart monitor. She was really, really wired up. It was really sad to see her like that. It was really sad. For everything that you were going through, she had the 50 stitches on her skin, and then they also said there were 2 more layers so you had over 100 stitches in your body. You were so strong and so tough. It was amazing how brave you were.
You want my help?
No. I can
Okay. How about I just put my foot in?
No.
I'm not gonna push. I'm just, you use it as a step.
I can do it.
I'm just sitting right. Got it. Outstanding, sweetie.
Mommy, do lay down with me?
I would love to lay down with you. You want me to read you another story? No? Okay. Inspirationally brave, really. Made it easier for me and Dad when we had to see her like that, because she was so tough. And we called you our tough cookie. You had a little t-shirt that said tough and it had an Oreo cookie on it.
Yeah. I remembered being in that hospital a little bit. It was just hard for me. I remember just getting out of bed was hard, and I had people come and visit me and try to help me and be supportive, I guess. Even my friends, I just wasn't feeling like playing with them or anything like that. I just was laying in bed, and it would hurt to walk and hurt to even just get up, and I just wanted to stay in my bed. And
people were just praying from east to west coast. There was a lady in California that sent you a teddy bear that we've never met and said that she was praying for you. People were really praying. And so the next prayer was that when all the testing was done, that it would be staged low. And so she still had to get, while you were in the hospital, you were getting a bone scan. That's where they went through and they literally looked at every single bone in your body to look for cancer. Not just the marrow, but now the bones. She also had this really expensive test where they injected this dye that cost $5,000 for the shot, just for the one shot. And then it was an MIBG scan, and again they scan your whole body, and if it lights up like a Christmas tree, then that shows like where the cancer is, like on the spots that light up. You had to have that done. Lots and lots of CT scans. And then in addition to that, she still had to get all the kidney testing done because you did have the kidney condition that they were originally looking for. She had the kidney reflux that was causing like all the urinary tract infections. But they had absolutely nothing to do with the cancer. So she basically had two different things. But because of the kidney reflux, they found the cancer early. And that's kind of where the story sort of leads to. When all the testing was done, they found out that it was stage 1.
Luckily.
Praise God, answered a prayer. It was contained to the tumor. They took out 4 lymph nodes, and only one of the lymph nodes had cancer in it, like the other 3 were clean. So praise God for the kidney reflux because it helped us find your cancer like early before you got sick, really sick.
Yeah, if they probably didn't find it as early, it could have spread and gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if we said it, but so she didn't have the ganglioneuroma, but in the end she had stage 1 ganglioneuroblastoma. That is a long word. That is 20 letters, but it's a word that we were glad to have because at that point it was either going to be neuroblastoma or ganglioneuroblastoma, and we got like the less aggressive, so that was awesome. Praise God. So we just feel really lucky and blessed that she had like the less aggressive neuroblastoma, ganglioneuroblastoma, because neuroblastoma is one of the deadliest childhood cancers. The survival rate is really low. Like it's not good, and it's a disease that comes back. Very often it will come back. So we were really glad that it was the ganglioneuroblastoma, but she still had like a 5 to 10% chance that it could come back. To me, that was a little scary because the chance that she would get it to begin with was less than 5 out of a million kids get it per year. What are the statistics meant? Less than 5 out of a million, but they're saying there's a 1 in 10 chance it could come back. So I'm like, ah! But anyway, we went to all of our appointments. She continued to have CT scans, blood work, all this stuff done. She had to drink a lot of yucky drinks, contrasting fluids, and medicine. Go through a lot of yucky stuff. Yeah.
It tasted like bad fruit punch.
Bad fruit punch. Okay, go ahead and drink some more bad fruit punch.
Gross.
Stuff. Yeah, and unfortunately, you had a lot of other health problems following the cancer, but when she was 11 years old, we saw a doctor who was a neuroblastoma expert, and he was able to declare that she was done with this cancer, that she can close that door and put it behind her now, no more testing. Look at you now. I mean, just look at you now. You would never know. You've just been amazing. Like, nothing has stopped this girl. She's done everything she's wanted to do. When she sets her mind to something, she gets it done.
I gotta wait for better days. It's all starting now. It's not too late. We can't
Go, Nina, go! Go, Nina, go!
It's gonna be alright. Had a clue, now I got a feeling. Just gotta hold on tight. Tonight, tonight. We're gonna be stronger. This is our fight. We're gonna be stronger. We won't back out of this fight. Have no regrets. Just hold your breath and then you'll be strong.
I'm so proud of you.